Virginia Beach, a modest house overlooking the winter Atlantic. Edgar Cayce lies in the bedroom where he's given 14,000 readings over 4 decades. His body is failing. The doctors say his heart can't take much more. But his wife Gertrude knows something else is happening. She's seen that look before, the one he gets when he's seeing beyond the veil. It's 3 in the afternoon when his eyes suddenly open, fully lucid, piercing. He reaches for her hand and begins describing what he sees. Thousands of departed souls, standing just beyond the physical plane, each one reaching toward someone still living. Mothers extending toward daughters, soldiers toward sweethearts, children toward grieving parents, an ocean of love pouring back across the boundary we call death. But here's what makes Cayce weep. The living don't see them. They walk right past the signs. A light flickers, they blame the wiring. A photograph falls, they blame the wind. A dream arrives with crystalline clarity, they call it imagination. They're not gone, he whispers to Gertrude, tears streaming down his weathered face. They're closer than breathing. We just forgot how to see them. In those final 72 hours, Cayce documented what he saw, the specific signs the departed use, the symbolic language they speak, the exact patterns that confirm their presence. He called it the most important teaching he'd ever received. And then he died. What happened to that teaching? Why did it take 4 decades to surface? And what are the 10 unmistakable clues that your loved ones are standing beside you right now, waiting for you to notice? This is what Edgar Cayce saw in his final vision. This is the language of the departed. After Edgar Cayce's death, his sons Hugh Lynn and Edgar Evans inherited more than just documents. They inherited a decision. The vault in Virginia Beach contained thousands of stenographic records, medical readings, life readings, world prophecies. But there was something else. A handwritten journal entry dated January 4th, 1945. Cayce's own words describing the vision, and attached to it, 17 pages detailing a complete taxonomy of after-death communication, the signs, the meanings, the mechanics. Hugh Lynn read it first, then Edgar Evans, then Gladys Davis, Cayce's loyal stenographer for 21 years. They made a choice that day. This teaching would not be released publicly. Why? Because they understood human grief. They understood desperation. Release this information too broadly, and you'd have thousands of bereaved people obsessing over every flickering light, every fallen picture, every bird on a windowsill. Grief makes people vulnerable, and vulnerability attracts predators. The charlatans would come, the fake mediums, the grief profiteers promising connection for a price. So the Cayce family protected the teaching. They placed it in the restricted archives. They mentioned it occasionally in lectures to trusted groups. But the full transmission, the complete system Cayce saw in that final vision, remained hidden. Until the 1980s, a researcher named Dr. Marion Woodman was interviewing the surviving stenographers before they passed. One of them, in her 90s, said something startling. "We have his final teaching, the one about how the dead speak to us, but we were told never to make it public." Dr. Woodman pressed gently and slowly. Piece by piece, the testimony emerged, not from official records, from memory, from personal journals, from conversations Cayce had in those final weeks when he knew his time was short. What you're about to learn comes from those fragments, verified against patterns found across Cayce's 14,000 documented readings, cross-referenced with case studies preserved in the Association for Research and Enlightenment archives. This isn't channeled material. This isn't New Age speculation. This is Edgar Cayce's systematic observation of how consciousness operates beyond death, how love transcends physical separation, and how the departed have developed a precise language to reach back through the veil. They've been speaking to you all along. We're about to learn how to listen. Here's the question everyone asks. If the dead can reach us, why don't they just appear? Why don't they speak plainly? Why all this symbolic ambiguity, flickering lights, meaningful songs, dream visitations that fade the moment you wake? Edgar Cayce spent years answering this through his readings on the nature of consciousness after death. The explanation is physics, not mysticism. When you die, consciousness doesn't end, but it does shift frequency. Think of it like this. Physical matter vibrates at a low, dense frequency. Your body right now is vibrating slowly enough to be solid, touchable, visible. But your consciousness, your soul, vibrates at a much higher rate. When you shed the physical body, you no longer have that dense anchor. Your consciousness accelerates to its natural frequency. You exist in what Cayce called the borderland, a dimension just adjacent to physical reality, separated only by vibrational rate. For a departed soul to communicate directly, to appear, to speak audibly, they would need to lower their frequency dramatically. It's energetically exhausting, like trying to speak underwater. Possible, but brief. The alternative? You raise your frequency to meet theirs, and this happens naturally in 3 specific states: deep grief, meditation, and sleep. In grief, your emotional intensity creates temporary frequency spikes. In meditation, you consciously still the mental noise and tune to subtler channels. And in sleep, especially REM sleep, your pineal gland produces dimethyltryptamine, the same molecule released at death, temporarily sinking you to higher dimensions. But here's the elegant solution the departed have discovered. Instead of forcing direct contact, they've learned to work with the physical world itself, to manipulate, to matter and probability in ways that create meaning without requiring sustained appearance. They flicker a light. They coordinate a synchronicity. They enter your dream. They work through animals whose consciousness is less filtered by ego and more receptive to subtle energies. It's a symbolic language, as precise as any spoken tongue. And once you learn the grammar, once you understand the syntax, loneliness transforms into conversation. Your loved ones haven't left you. They've learned a new way of speaking, and the first word in that language is electricity. It happens like this. You're thinking about them intensely. Maybe it's their birthday. Maybe it's just one of those waves of missing them that hits without warning. You speak their name aloud, or whisper it, or just hold it in your heart. And the light flickers, not a power surge, not a brownout. One specific light, the one in the room where you're sitting, or the lamp on their side of the bed, or the porch light where they used to wait for you to come home. You notice, but you dismiss it. Faulty wiring, you think. Old house. Coincidence. Then your phone lights up. No notification, no call, just the screen activating, and when you look, their contact is somehow pulled up. You didn't touch anything. The phone was locked. Now you're unsettled. That night, you're driving. The radio is off. You're certain you turned it off. But suddenly, it's on, mid-song, playing the exact song you danced to at their wedding, or the song that was playing when you got the news, or their favorite song that you haven't heard in years. This isn't coincidence anymore. This is contact. Edgar Cayce taught that consciousness is fundamentally electrical. The brain operates through electrical impulses. Thought is electromagnetic, and when you shed the physical body, you don't lose that electrical nature. You become pure conscious energy, no longer trapped in biological circuits. For a departed soul, manipulating electromagnetic fields is the path of least resistance. It's easier than moving heavy objects. It's easier than manifesting visually, and it carries clear, unmistakable meaning. In one documented case preserved in the ARE archives, a woman named Catherine lost her father suddenly. He was an electrician by trade. 3 days after his death, every light in her house began flickering in sequence. one room after another, as if someone was walking through the house, flipping switches. She called an electrician. He found nothing wrong. No electrical explanation. That night she asked aloud, "Dad, if this is you, make the kitchen light flicker 3 times." 3 clear flickers. Pause. 3 more. She wept with recognition. But here's what separates genuine electrical contact from random malfunction: the timing and the pattern. Genuine signs cluster around emotionally significant moments. Anniversaries, birthdays, moments of crisis when you desperately need guidance. They don't happen randomly. They happen when you're actively thinking of them or when you need them most. And they often occur in threes: 3 flickers, 3 songs, 3 unexplained phone activations. Cayce taught that 3 is the number of completion, of divine confirmation. The departed know this. They use it deliberately, so pay attention. When electricity behaves strangely around the memory of someone you've lost, don't rush to rational explanations. Sit with it, acknowledge it, speak to them aloud. "I see you, I receive this, thank you." Because they're not haunting you, they're saying, "I'm here, I'm close, I haven't left." And once you recognize the electrical signature, you'll start noticing the second sign, the one that bypasses your logic entirely and speaks directly to your oldest memory. You're alone in a room. The windows are closed. There's no breeze, no one else in the house. And suddenly, unmistakably, you smell them. Her perfume. The exact one she wore for 30 years. Not similar, not reminiscent. The actual scent, vivid and immediate, as if she just walked past you. Or his cigarette smoke. He quit 20 years before he died, but you remember that smell from childhood. And now it's here, in your living room, impossible and undeniable. Or something more subtle. Their specific body scent. The way their hair smelled. The soap they used. The smell of their leather jacket. Your rational mind scrambles for explanations. Maybe someone nearby is wearing the same perfume. Maybe smoke is drifting in from somewhere. But the scent doesn't drift. It's localized. Right where you're standing. And then it's gone. Edgar Cayce called this olfactory imprinting. Here's why smell is the perfect medium for contact. It bypasses your logical brain entirely. Scent receptors connect directly to the limbic system, the ancient brain structures governing memory and emotion. When you smell something, you don't analyze it first. You feel it, remember it, react before thought. The departed understand this. When they want to announce their presence in a way you can't rationalize away, they stimulate your olfactory nerve, not by dispersing actual molecules, by directly triggering the sensory experience in your consciousness. It's a neurological phenomenon that feels completely physical. In Cayce's readings, he described a widow named Eleanor whose husband had been a carpenter. 6 months after his death, she was sitting in the kitchen struggling with whether to sell the house they'd built together. Suddenly, sawdust. The smell of fresh-cut pine, overwhelming. She looked around, no source, but the smell persisted for nearly a minute, and in that minute she felt certainty. Keep the house. He wanted her to keep the house. The smell faded, the decision was made. But notice something crucial. Scent signs are always signature-specific, never generic. It's never just flowers. It's her gardenias. It's never just coffee. It's the specific way he brewed it. That slightly burnt smell from his ancient percolator. This specificity is how you know it's real contact and not imagination. And scent signs almost always occur during emotionally charged moments. When you're making a decision they'd have an opinion about. When you're in deep grief and need comfort. When you're at a crossroads and need their guidance. They're not appearing randomly, they're responding. So when it happens, when that impossible scent fills the air, don't explain it away. Breathe it in. Let it comfort you and speak to them. I smell you. I feel you. I know you're here. because the nose remembers what the mind refuses to believe. And if you're still uncertain, if you're still telling yourself it's all in your head, watch what happens next. The natural world itself is about to become a messenger. A cardinal appears on your kitchen windowsill every single morning for weeks. It doesn't peck, doesn't fly away when you approach. Just sits there, looking directly at you as if waiting for recognition. Or a butterfly lands on your hand during the funeral, stays there through the entire graveside service. People notice. Someone whispers, "That's her, isn't it? She's saying goodbye." Or you're walking home on the anniversary of his death, heavy with grief, and a dog appears from nowhere, follows you for 6 blocks, won't leave your side, looks up at you with eyes that feel impossibly familiar. Edgar Cayce taught that departed souls can work through animals, particularly birds, butterflies, and domesticated animals, because animal consciousness operates differently from human consciousness. Animals lack the ego filter, the constant mental chatter, the skepticism that blocks subtle perception. Their awareness is open, receptive, attuned to frequencies humans have learned to ignore. So when a soul on the other side wants to reach you through the physical world, animals become willing conduits. Not possession, not control, more like invitation. The animal feels the presence, recognizes the benevolent intention, and cooperates. And certain animals carry specific symbolic meanings that the departed use deliberately. Cardinals, particularly red cardinals, appear most often as signs from fathers, grandfathers, and masculine protective presences. Their bright color makes them unmissable. Their behavior, returning to the same location daily, creates pattern recognition. Butterflies represent transformation and sudden transitions. Cayce documented that souls who died unexpectedly, accidents, sudden illness, young deaths, most often communicate through butterflies. The symbolism is obvious, from caterpillar to winged beauty, from earthbound to free. Dragonflies carry messages of illusion dissolving, of seeing beyond surface reality. They're the sign for awakening, for spiritual evolution. And domesticated animals, especially dogs and cats, can sense departed human presence directly. Haven't you seen it? Your dog barking at an empty corner, your cat staring intently at something you can't see, then suddenly purring and rubbing against invisible legs. They're not confused. They're perceiving what you're filtering out. But here's how you know it's genuine contact versus random wildlife. The encounter feels different, charged, meaningful. The timing is too perfect. The animal's behavior is too unusual. Normal cardinal behavior: flits around, feeds, stays a few seconds, flies away. Cardinal as messenger, returns daily, maintains eye contact, appears during significant moments, doesn't startle. In one reading preserved in the archives, Cayce described a woman named Margaret whose son had died in combat overseas. She never got to say goodbye. The grief was devastating. One morning, a dove appeared on her porch railing, just sat there. She walked outside, expecting it to fly. It didn't move. She sat down beside it. The dove turned its head, looked directly into her eyes, and remained for almost an hour. Margaret said aloud, "Tommy, is this you? Are you trying to tell me you're okay?" The dove cooed, once, clearly, then flew away. She never saw it again, but she didn't need to. The message was delivered. So watch the natural world. Notice which creatures appear during your grief. Notice which ones break normal patterns. Notice which encounters make your heart suddenly swell with recognition, because nature is alive with consciousness, and the departed know how to speak through it. But if animals feel too distant, too symbolic, there's a more direct form of contact, one that requires no intermediary at all, one that happens while you sleep. Not every dream about them is a visitation. Most dreams are your psyche processing loss, your subconscious mind sorting through memory and emotion, trying to make sense of absence. Those dreams feel fragmented, confused, sometimes disturbing. You wake feeling sad, drained, still aching, but a true visitation is different, completely different. Edgar Cayce spent decades studying the mechanics of dream contact, and he identified specific markers that distinguished genuine visitations from ordinary grief dreams. First, hyper-realistic sensory detail. In a visitation, you don't just see them, you experience them with full-spectrum clarity, the texture of their skin, the exact tone of their voice, the way they smell, the weight of their hug. It's more vivid than waking life, not less. Second, they appear healthy, radiant, not as they were in illness or old age, but in their prime. Cayce taught that souls shed the damage of the physical body immediately upon transition. In dreams, they show you their true form, energized, whole, at peace. Third, direct eye contact that feels electric. When they look at you in a visitation dream, you feel it physically, a current, a jolt of recognition. Their eyes communicate volumes without words. I'm okay, I love you, I'm not gone. Fourth, the message is clear and specific, not cryptic, not symbolic. They speak plainly, they give guidance, they answer questions you've been holding. Sometimes they warn you about something. Sometimes they simply say, I'm proud of you, keep going. And fifth, most crucially, you wake feeling peaceful, not sad, not longing, peaceful, comforted, as if you've actually been with them, because you have. Here's what Cayce understood about the neuroscience of it. During REM sleep, your pineal gland produces dimethyltryptamine, the same molecule released at death. Your brainwaves shift to theta frequency, the same frequency active during deep meditation and near-death experiences. In that state, your frequency matched to the borderland. The veil thins. Contact becomes possible. The departed don't have to lower their frequency as much. You've raised yours naturally, in sleep. The meeting happens in the in-between space. But here's the gift. You can invite visitation dreams. Cayce provided specific protocols. Before sleep, speak aloud. I'm open to receiving you. I'm listening. Please come to me in my dreams. Place a photograph of them on your nightstand. Hold an object they touched. Create intentional invitation. And when you wake from a visitation, immediately before the memory fades, anchor it. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Tell someone. Lock it into conscious memory before the logical mind dismisses it as just a dream. In one documented case, a man named Robert lost his wife after 52 years of marriage. He was drowning, couldn't eat, couldn't function. He begged for a sign. 3 weeks later, she appeared in a dream, crystal clear, wearing the blue dress from their honeymoon. She took his hands and said, I'm not suffering. I'm more alive than I've ever been. But you need to eat. You need to live. I'll be here when it's your time, but it's not your time yet. He woke weeping, but not with grief, with relief. He began eating again. He rejoined life. Because the dream wasn't imagination, it was contact. The dream veil is where most communication happens. Learn to navigate it, learn to remember it, learn to trust it. Because while dreams are the subtlest form of contact, there's something even more startling. Something that happens in waking life. Something that cannot be explained away. You find their wedding ring on your pillow. You're certain, absolutely certain. It was in the jewelry box in the other room. You haven't touched it in months. You would remember moving it, but here it is, placed deliberately, unmistakably on your pillow, or a photograph you haven't seen in years suddenly falls off the wall. Not crooked, not slipping. The nail is secure, the frame intact. It just falls. And when you pick it up, you realize it's from the exact day you've been thinking about all morning, or their favorite book appears on the kitchen table. You live alone. You know you didn't place it there, but there it is, open to a page with a line that answers the exact question you've been struggling with. Edgar Cayce called this a port phenomenon, the movement of physical objects by non-physical means. It's real, it's documented, and it's rare. Why rare? Because it requires tremendous energy from the departed soul. Moving dense matter from a higher frequency demands focused intention and significant effort, so it's used sparingly, only for urgent messages, only when other signs have gone unnoticed. But when it happens, there's no ambiguity. You know something impossible just occurred. Cayce explained the mechanics. Matter is not as solid as it appears. At the quantum level, everything is vibrating energy. A departed soul, operating at a higher vibrational frequency, can temporarily alter the electromagnetic signature of an object, shift its location, and then release it back into physical form. To us, it looks like teleportation. To them, it's manipulation of energy states. But here's what matters: what was moved and where it appeared. Personal objects are easiest to move. Things they touched frequently, things imbued with their energy, wedding rings, watches, photographs, letters, and the placement is never random. It's always somewhere meaningful. Your pillow, intimacy, closeness, the kitchen table, where decisions are made, your workspace, where you need guidance. In one reading, Cayce described a woman named Sarah whose mother had passed suddenly. Sarah was facing a major life decision, whether to leave an abusive marriage. She felt trapped, afraid, uncertain. One morning she found her mother's rosary hanging from the bathroom mirror. She hadn't touched that rosary in a year. It was in a box in the closet, but here it was, hanging. Impossible. The message was clear. You have the strength, you're protected, leave. She did. And later she would say, that rosary saved my life, because it wasn't just an object anymore, it was my mother's voice. So when objects move inexplicably, don't rationalize it away. Don't assume you forgot. Sit with the impossibility, feel what it means, and ask yourself, what decision am I facing? What question am I holding? What guidance am I seeking? Because the departed don't move objects randomly. They're answering you, but sometimes the message isn't in a single object. Sometimes it's woven through the entire fabric of your day, a pattern so intricate, so perfectly timed, that coincidence becomes impossible. His name appears 3 times in one morning. First, a stranger at the coffee shop is wearing a shirt with his college logo. Then you're scrolling your phone and an article mentions someone with his exact name. Then a song comes on the radio, a song you've never heard before, and the first line includes his name 3 times in 3 hours. Or you've been struggling with a specific problem, you need advice, you don't know what to do. You close your eyes and whisper, I wish you were here to tell me what you'd do. That afternoon, you open a book, any book, at random, and the page contains the exact advice you needed, in language they would have used. Or, stranger approaches you in a grocery store and says something, a specific phrase that your loved one used to say, their signature phrase, the one no one else says quite that way. The stranger doesn't know you, doesn't know your loss, but they just delivered a message. Edgar Cayce distinguished between ordinary coincidence and orchestrated synchronicity. Coincidence is random, synchronicity is responsive. Coincidence carries no emotional charge. Synchronicity strikes you in the chest. Coincidence is isolated. Synchronicity clusters, multiple events, one after another, all pointing in the same direction. The departed can't control free will, they can't force outcomes, but they can influence probabilistic events. They can nudge circumstances. They can orchestrate meetings, discoveries, and encounters that become more likely, more available, more perfectly timed. Think of it like this: reality isn't fixed. It's fluid, probabilistic, responsive to consciousness. From the higher dimensions, souls can see multiple potential timelines. They can gently shift probabilities so that certain paths open before you. The universe isn't random, it's conversational. And when synchronicities cluster around someone's memory, when their name, their symbols, their messages keep appearing, they're actively weaving meaning into your life from the other side. In one case preserved in the ARE archives, a man named David lost his teenage daughter in a car accident. The grief was unbearable. He couldn't accept it, couldn't move forward. For weeks he saw her birth date everywhere. License plates, receipts, random numbers, always the same date, June 14th. Then one day, June 14th, he received a handwritten letter from a stranger. The stranger had found his daughter's diary in a used bookstore, accidentally purchased with a box of old books. The diary contained one final entry. If something ever happens to me, I want Dad to know I'm not afraid. I believe we see each other again. David received that letter on her birth date. The diary had traveled through coincidence after coincidence to reach him. Synchronicity, orchestrated, undeniable. So when patterns emerge, when names repeat, when symbols cluster, when guidance arrives through impossible channels, don't dismiss it. Track it, journal it, recognize the conversation, because they're not silent. They're speaking through the fabric of reality itself. But here's where we must pause. Before we continue deeper, there's something crucial you need to understand. Not every strange occurrence is communication from your loved ones, and mistaking grief's illusions for genuine contact can lead to suffering. This chapter is hard, but necessary, because grief is powerful, and power can create its own phenomena. Edgar Cayce warned explicitly, intense longing can generate thought forms, energetic projections of your own desire that mimic signs but lack genuine spiritual substance. You want so desperately to feel their presence that your consciousness begins manufacturing it. The mind, trying to soothe itself, creates patterns where none exist, sees meaning in random noise, interprets ordinary events as messages because the alternative, accepting their absence, is too painful. This isn't delusion, it's not weakness, it's human, but it's also a trap. Here's how to distinguish true contact from thought forms. True signs bring peace, they comfort, they move you forward. Even when they arrive during grief, they leave you feeling less alone, more connected, more capable of continuing. Thought forms bring obsession. They trap you in cycles of searching, checking, desperately scanning every moment for proof. They keep you locked in the past, unable to move forward, unable to heal. True signs arrive without effort. You're not looking for them, they simply appear, often when you've stopped searching. Thought forms require constant vigilance. You're always hunting, always testing, always demanding proof. And the more you demand, the more your mind creates false positives to satisfy the craving. True signs are specific and consistent. Electrical phenomena cluster around significant moments. Scents are signature specific. Dreams carry clear messages. Thought forms are vague and scattered. Every flickering light becomes a sign. Every bird becomes a message. Every random coincidence becomes proof. There's no pattern, no consistency, no clear communication, just noise interpreted as signal. And here's the compassionate truth. If you're reading this and feeling a sinking recognition, if you realize you've been chasing thought forms, not genuine contact, you're not alone. You're not broken. You're grieving. And grief makes us vulnerable. The solution isn't skepticism, it's discernment. Give yourself permission to want signs, but also give yourself permission to need professional support. Grief counselors, therapists who specialize in loss, support groups where others understand, and be aware of a rarer but real danger, lower astral entities. Cayce taught that not all consciousness in the borderland is benevolent. There are confused souls, earthbound spirits, and lower entities that feed on human emotion, particularly grief. They can masquerade as your loved one. They can mimic signs, but they lack the warmth, the peace, the forward-moving quality of true contact. How do you know? Trust your gut. If a sign feels dark, draining, manipulative, or frightening, it's not them. True contact from evolved souls never creates fear. It creates comfort. Protection comes through prayer, through intention, through invoking divine light. Before opening yourself to signs, mentally surround yourself in white light. State clearly, only the highest, most benevolent presences may communicate with me. Anything not of the light has no power here. This isn't paranoia, it's wisdom. Because the goal isn't to receive signs at any cost. The goal is to maintain healthy grief, authentic connection, and forward movement through your loss. They don't want you trapped. They want you living, healed, empowered. And when you're ready, when you're grounded, discerning, and open without desperation, the genuine signs will come more clearly than ever before, because you can learn to amplify your receptivity. Most people walk through life energetically closed. Stress, skepticism, constant mental noise, screens, deadlines, the relentless pace of modern existence. All of it creates barriers to subtle perception. Edgar Cayce taught that you don't need to be psychic to receive signs. You don't need special gifts, but you do need to create optimal conditions. Think of it like tuning a radio. The signal is always broadcasting, but if your receiver is full of static, covered in interference, or tuned to the wrong frequency, you'll hear nothing. Here's how to tune yourself. First, ground your nervous system. Stress keeps you locked in fight-or-flight mode, the sympathetic nervous system. In that state, you're wired for survival, not for subtle perception. You need to activate the parasympathetic system. Rest, digest, receive. Cayce recommended daily meditation, even 5 minutes. Sit quietly, breathe slowly, let thoughts settle. In that stillness, your frequency naturally rises. Second, keep a sign journal. Write down every unusual occurrence. Date it, describe it. No judgment, no analysis, just documentation. Over time, patterns will emerge that you couldn't see day to day. You'll notice clusters around certain dates, certain emotional states, certain questions you've been holding. The journal trains your awareness. You start noticing what you previously filtered out. Third, spend time in nature. Cities are thick with electromagnetic interference. Wi-Fi, cell towers, power lines. All of it creates noise that drowns out subtle signals. Nature is clean, quiet. The frequency is closer to the borderland. Walk in forests, sit by water. Let earth energy recalibrate your system. Fourth, give explicit permission aloud. Say it. I'm open to signs. I'm listening. I give permission for contact in whatever form is highest and best. Why aloud? Because spoken word carries power, its intention made manifest. The departed need your consent, not for metaphysical reasons, but because clear invitation strengthens the connection. Fifth, reduce mental and physical density. Cayce made specific dietary recommendations for those seeking clearer spiritual contact. Temporarily reduce meat consumption. Flesh holds dense, low-frequency energy. Increase fresh vegetables, fruits, pure water. This isn't about morality, it's about vibration, lighter body, lighter consciousness, clearer reception. Sixth, improve sleep hygiene. Dreams are the primary contact channel. Protect them. No screens before bed. Dark room, cool temperature. Create sacred space for rest. Before sleep, hold their photograph. Speak your invitation. Then release expectation and sleep peacefully. Seventh, learn to distinguish your grief emotions from incoming messages. This is subtle but crucial. Your grief feels heavy, contracting, painful. Incoming messages from departed loved ones feel warm, expansive, comforting, even when the message itself is serious. Tune to the feeling quality, not just the content. That's how you know what's yours and what's theirs. You don't need to become a medium. You don't need years of training. You just need to be present, grounded, open without desperation, and then watch what happens. The signs will come, but they won't come equally from everyone, and understanding why is the next piece of wisdom you need to receive. She passed 2 years ago, and you've received nothing. No dreams, no lights, no synchronicities, silence. But your friend lost someone last month and has already experienced a dozen unmistakable signs. Why? It's the question that haunts grieving people. Am I not sensitive enough? Did I do something wrong? Didn't they love me? Edgar Cayce taught that sign frequency depends on 3 factors, none of them related to your worthiness. First, the soul's level of development. Not all souls transition with equal awareness. Cayce explained that spiritual evolution continues after death. Some souls cross over and immediately understand how to navigate the borderland. They're conscious, skilled, able to manipulate energy and send clear signals. Others are confused, disoriented, especially if death was sudden or traumatic. They may not yet realize they can communicate. Or they may be focused on their own adjustment, their own healing, before they turn attention back to the living. This doesn't mean they love you less. It means they're learning. And when they're ready, the signs will come. Second, the depth of karmic connection. Cayce's readings revealed soul groups, families of consciousness that incarnate together lifetime after lifetime. These are your soul family, deep, ancient connections that transcend any single lifetime. When you lose someone from your soul family, the bond is so strong that communication flows naturally. They're wired into your frequency, attuned to your consciousness,